conversation we've just had about creating structures and environments in which women can perform more successfully than some of the kind of inherited structures that we have. That's happening. It's very interesting. A friend of mine that used to work for me, Emma, she was never involved in political activity at all. And a year ago, at home, very busy, multitasking, got so enraged by Christmas presents on television, all in pink, she started a world-changing movement called Pink Stinks, okay, from her home. And she's got 100,000 people that now listen to her, on Twitter, whatever. She's changing the world, right? And she is doing it from her home in South Wales. So, I think that we're talking about a technology that is hugely democratic in its potential. And that's what we now have to live with in public services where I come from. I think the second thing is, anybody who saw the slightly tragic NBN video, which is their first attempt, God bless them, to promote the NBN, will see that the NBN will change everything in Australia except gender relations. Because the video was terribly, it was very much that the father of the family was the innovator using interactive technology in the home, and the mother was ordering materials for the next menu, and the grandmother was ill at home receiving Medicare. So I actually think that they've missed a point, which is that actually it does help transform gender relations, because it is about time management and user content from below. But I think there is a really interesting issue about the interplay of big public bodies and innovation, because I'll give you a story from a real world example where I used to be a special advisor to ministers in the UK, and we asked the civil servants to get rid of the 440 performance indicators that were dragging down local government in the UK, and they were very excited. They said how excited they were, how innovative they were going to be, and a month later they came back all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and presented us with their transformation of this conundrum that we had given them. 440 performance indicators came back as 4 columns of 110 indicators each. That is a true story. The thing about that is an entirely true story, and everybody loves it because they know it must be true. The best example of innovation I came across when we were doing the strategy document was actually in Nambucca, where an incredible outfit, a guerrilla outfit that is running the neighbourhood centre, has come up with one of the most important transformations of healthcare in Australia. They've enabled a Skyping to be done between people living in Nambucca and medical specialists elsewhere, and they've got it arranged as bulk billing, and they have 15 Skyped medical interviews, discussions a week. I think that's extraordinary, right? And that's the kind of thinking that is going to be required, and the technology kind of enables us to have, but you've got to bring cleverness to the table. So one of my big things is that smart technology, smart cities, that's one of the big brands at the moment, requires smart people, smart governance in a traditional sense, in a way. We bring our cleverness to the table to use these things. And in Nambucca they certainly have. And I just wanted to say a few serious and sensible things before I tell you about my life, which anybody who knows yesterday is the continuation of a theme, but it's worth returning to. My task is to tell you about, I'm going to tell you about the strategy. I returned to certain things, I'm afraid, but I was asked to show one or two things yet again. I will do, I promise. My task is to tell you about the strategy. It's actually, we realised today, Australia's first regional digital strategy, and is a serious attempt to tie together a number of agencies in the area. It's online at the moment. Please have a look at it. But we want to exploit 3 linked opportunities in the region. One is the advent of high-speed broadband, and it's got a beachhead at Coffs, if you like. But there's a bit of an interesting issue with the gap. The rollout will take 7 to 8 years in the entire region. So how do we manage the gap? That's one of the things we look at. There's a wider shift to online public services going on and a digital engagement of citizens, and we want to leverage that in this strategy. So this isn't just about the NBN and about fibre. This is about an online engagement with citizens and digitization of services that's going on. So how do we get behind it and really show that the region can do that almost better than anywhere else in Australia? And then the third thing is that there's an emergence of a digital economy, a cluster of creative cultural industries, design-based, manufacturing, health and knowledge industries clusters in the region. And this plays to this thing I talked about yesterday about, you know, is there a pent-up desire to live in beautiful parts of the world, but they can't think of going there because they can't do the business that they wish to do, but now they can, and they begin to. Is that a serious offer that we can make to Australian entrepreneurs? I think it is, right? So I think our bottom line is the NBN can be a game changer, a catalyst for regional Australia. And that stuff we heard about today from Minister Crean about can it offer some diversification for the economy? Yes, it can. I did very well, though I couldn't see any of my bloody notes there because I got the wrong glasses on. But never mind. Now I can't see you, by the way, which is probably... the problem always is that you can see me whatever I wear. So, diversification of the economy, help deal with structural inequalities. A great phrase, I think, we heard, inequities, we heard from Rob today, the structural inequities of the regional split in Australia. I don't think there's been a serious regional policy in Australia for decades, and I think we heard some of the elements of it this morning. If, and the if is, it can do these things if we organise, we are collaborative to exploit the opportunities. If we combine smart technology with smart governance, management, partnership, smart partnership, it is a tool. It's not a cure for everything. It's a tool, high-speed broadband. And I think it's important to bear in mind that in the United States, when they put a lot of money into their version of the NBN over there, high-speed broadband capacity, 2/3 of the budget from Congress and the money went into how will the health service redesign itself? How will public services deliver services differently? How will citizens engage within political processes differently? It was about public service business model transformation. What can we do with this thing rather than pipes in the ground? And I think part of that debate has been missing over here, but it's coming now, I think. So what we do, blimey, how did that work? Why we produced the strategy, I'm going to say a bit about that, how we produced it, key questions we tried to answer. Whatever you go away with, there'll be 10 things we try to answer, okay? How we answer them, what comes next, the action bit. Now, forgive me for this, but I had to do this because I was asked to return to this just for a moment. Just for a moment. This is the equivalent for Welsh people of the assassination of John Kennedy, right? So this is the moment we ask, where were you when Sam Warburton was sent off? But I also will show you, of course, because I've been asked to show this, the hidden camera that the video umpire had, but the referee did not refer to. If he had, he would have seen a very different scenario of the Frenchman, in fact, illegally attacking the Welshman. And just to, because I was asked for this third slide as well, is that because I am now a Welsh Australian, of course, I found a website that attacked the New Zealanders where they needed to be attacked, which is, of course, when they play the hacker, that is the last time they're onside in a game. Okay, so an Australian, to his credit, I am proud to be associated with this man, set up a website which is called, I'm not an alcoholic, I only drink when Richie McCaw is offside. So, I come from a place, I'll just whip through this because I love this stuff, but so I come from a public housing estate there, 1,000 jobs, used to walk to, brilliant, sustainable, now 40% worklessness, the legacy of mining, there was none, okay? So, that's the place, my next door neighbour got killed in that, my great uncle got killed in that, there you go, blood on the coal, so there's no romance, right? Okay, that's what's left, okay? So 40% unemployment in a mining area, that's what's left. So, sorry, that's if you sorry, I forgot about that. That's if you Google images of Manly. So I live there. My wife's Australian. She's always ashamed of me when I do these presentations. Anyway, so we live in Manly, and which is, and one of my first jobs, to my great delight, was doing a strategy for COFSON, because they're getting the NBN in rather a big way. So I learned some of my stuff before I did the regional strategy there. And I just want to say the following. So I always wonder about, because I come at this, I'm a public services person in my background. I was involved in Tony Blair's Prime Minister's delivery unit, where we try to change public services. So I'm not a techie, I'm an e-virgin who's become an evangelist, and I just know nothing other than what you know. But I'm really interested in what this can do to transform the world I know about, okay? And the world that many of us work in. But I also have done a lot of urban regeneration work in England, urban development. You know, East London was my turf. And I asked what drives places. So I'm interested in whether we can use high-speed broadband in the kind of regional revitalization. That's my, and there's a lot in the report and the strategy about that. I'll explain that later. I said a bit yesterday, it was worth saying a little bit about this. Cornwall had lost 20% of its population, beautiful part of the United Kingdom, in British terms next door to London, 6 hours away, but in our terms quite a regional and remote area. Nobody wanted to live in, go on holidays but not live there. And what happened was they brought in high-speed broadband earlier than the other part of the UK. 50 megabits is available. Entrepreneurs with families in their 30s have been moving there, not retirees in their late 50s. And so it's a game-changing moment in Cornwall, and the discussion is, can we do the same? And when we did it, had the discussion in COFS, there was a really funny encapsulation of this, which is, and it's a branding thing as well, can we move in this process from the big banana to the big computer, you know? And I think it's a really good way of encapsulating the discussion, okay? And so Cornwall has kind of moved to the big computer. And what's happened? It's got recovering GDP, really big wealth growth in the last 10 years, and population growth significant, faster than the rest of the United Kingdom. Tree-changing, life-changing entrepreneurs, younger, not retirees. Very important in a place like this along the coast where we get a lot of retirees, but economic activity is not great enough. So we have 55, 56% of people working when we should really have well over 60% of a sustainable place. So can the technology bring entrepreneurs and make an economic difference? That's what we look at in the strategy as well. So there was no legacy in this Welsh place, and my question is there a legacy for us in Australia? And this is the background. I did this report called Connecting Communities, and just to give you a few headlines from that, because it's relevant to this. So in healthcare, I look at the transformation of health service delivery, where you can obviously now, technology allows you to be in 500 or 600 miles from where a surgeon or a doctor is and get treated, completely changed. Not just healthcare, but the sense of sustainability. The perception of the viability of a place feels less remote because of this technology. Interesting, discuss, right? Economically, for every 10% of people we get online, there's a 1% increase in GDP. That's an international standard. For every one job lost on the online revolution, there's 2.6 created, all in SMEs. That's an international benchmark figure. And there's a premium for people being online, $1,200 in Australian terms for every person per year benefit for shopping online. That's why the digital exclusion, digital divide problem is a real issue for any strategy going forward, because if you're not in it, you can't win it. So we've got to have a big effort to upskill and engage people in this next stage of the digital revolution. Otherwise, they will fall further behind. People will fall further behind, and communities, unless they have this level playing field. And that's a really big issue, which we'll talk about when I conclude about the details of the strategy. So I think it's a bit of a legacy. I don't think it abolishes distance. I think that's not possible, but it's part of the game-changing elements that we need to have. We heard about a few of them today, education, but I think we think in the strategy, collaboration, partnership working, being clever together to try and bridge some of these gaps. But it does help get rid of some of the connectivity problems that certainly lead people to leave an area and not come to an area. So I think it plays to the strength of a connected community, if you like, in unexpected places. So I've done some of this, and I think for individuals, very important, this whole list. This is well worth understanding as a kind of very important baseline as to why we should do this stuff, right? All these savings, opportunities to stay in touch. More people are more connected with communities, not less. Women are at the heart of this revolution of connecting their families and internationally, very interesting. More support for independent living, not less, more support for independent, by people enabled to live at home instead of going into hospital, remote devices, looking at their various life signs, all broadband enabled, communication enabling them to stay in their homes. This is a really big shift coming, it seems to me. More opportunities for learning and developing. I'm going to go on to say something about the importance of e-government in this, but the big thing, coming back to the conversation we had earlier on, is the move from e-government to we-government in this process of interactivity that is enabled by broadband, it seemed to me.